It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Mr. Smooth and Savvy is joined by guests from all walks of life, from the entertainment industry to authors to political and social commentators, the famous and not so famous, the controversial and the light and fluffy. We have it all. Now, here's Douglas Coleman.
Okay, please welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show, Mike Precise. Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Doing just fine. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I'm reading through your bio here. You are a social media manager, A&R talent scout, and he does it all blind. What does that mean, you do it all blind?
Well, I have around about 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with keratoconus, myopia, and astigmatism, and it's a corneal a mutation within the eye that has your eye, you're actually cornea cone-shaped, and it gradually gets worse. There is no cure for it, and the only thing they have for it is the HR3 Holcomb or cornea transplant. So like I said, it gradually gets worse, and so right now, I was deemed blind by the state of California as well as the state of Texas. And so basically I can't see any detail at all. No detail. I can't drive. I can't, barely watch the TV, can barely read anymore. And, that's what it is. I mean, I'm blind, but it's a different kind of blind. You would never know I was blind at all by looking at me and talking to me, but, there's a lot of pain that goes on with it and stuff like that. But I mean, I've gotten by for the last 7 years with having this disease, and I really call it a blessing than a curse,
Well, I'm sorry I misunderstood the way that was written because I didn't know it was literal. I thought you meant, like people say, oh, I'm flying blind, or, you know what I'm saying? Like it used it as a metaphor, not as a literal thing. Oh, well, that's too bad.
Well, no, see, it is a literal thing. I mean, it is a, people's assumption of them being blind is, they have you have somebody who has glasses and stuff, which I do. I have the glasses, I have the blind cane, I have those seeing eye dogs, I have all of that.
Wow.
Okay. So yeah, and like I said, and it's funny how it goes. I mean, because you would never know until you actually watch me, during the day, or you're around me for a certain amount of time to know that actually, hey man, this guy really does have trouble seeing, but I've taken everything that I have gotten, everything that God has given me or my higher power has given me, and try to use it as a benefit to other people as well,
So there's no cure for this, or is it just going to get...
There is, so on December 5th, I've been lucky enough to be able to go into surgery, which is the cornea transplant. Yeah, so I have to have a donor. They're going to give me new corneas so that I could see again. And, there's a 50% chance that, I could see. It could help me. And there's a 50% chance that it won't help me, And as of eye surgery and anything that has to go on with the eyes, I'm going through with the biggest surgery they have. And that's actually getting new eyeballs, from a donor, which is terrifying, to say the least. But I mean, I have no other choice but to go with it. Otherwise, if I decided not to do it, then I would just gradually go blind. And, and then I wouldn't be able to do really anything.
An eye transplant, is that, obviously this would have to be from a dead donor, correct?
Yes, right.
Okay.
So, which is, and that whole thing is very interesting. So they have if the keratoconus isn't bad, is in the stage where it's just progressing, then there's a operation called the HR Holcomb, and that came out about, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago on the Dr. Oz show, which the doctor that I had that prescribed me the keratoconus was Dr. Boxler-Wackler, which is he's actually on the Dr. Oz show as one of the doctors. And so it was found out by a Olympic gold medalist bobsledder. He had it, and he had to quit going to his practices and stuff because he couldn't see, but he tried to hide it for so long, and then he's able to find a way to cure it, and then they named this operation after him. So it's the H.R. Holcomb, which is impacts and other things of that nature. Well, my eyesight is progressed so far that it's been actually leaving scar tissue within my cornea. So it actually looking at me and actually focusing, it looks like I have cat eyes. So, and they glisten and at nighttime. And so since my disease has progressed so far, they have said that there's no other choice for me but to have the cornea transplant. So yes, they have to have a donor. The donor, they do all the precautions, and they look at the eye and make sure it's all, ready to go, no diseases and stuff like that. And the cool thing about it is that once these eyes are taking place once they're put in, once I have them on me or whatever, I take certain traits of that person. So if that person liked, peas or something, and I don't like him, and then I'm going to start liking peas, If he's allergic to something like fish, then I'll be allergic to fish. You know what I mean?
No kidding.
So it's actually kind of weird.
That is strange. And that comes from the eyes, from the DNA in the eyes?
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that comes from the eyes. Because they're actually taking the windows of they say the eyes are the windows of the soul. So they're actually taking the actual cornea where you see, and they're replacing that.
Well, that's
so,
really...
it's very strange.
Very interesting. The reason I wanted to talk a little bit about this is my producer, John Morgan, who you've probably been emailing with. He is a kidney dialysis patient who had one kidney transplant already many years ago. So I know something about, body part transplants. Do you have to have a certain DNA match with your donor for eyes?
Yeah, I believe so. And like I said, they go through the whole, make sure there's no, like disease and stuff in it.
Right.
But then there's so many complications with this surgery. I mean, they told me, the list is just so huge, like my eye could pop out, I could have to have blood transfusion. I could it could give me droopy eyes, all sorts of stuff. So I was listening to the doctor. I'm like, do I really want this? Because I've been going, especially in the Hollywood entertainment industry, I've been doing this strong for 7 years with my eyesight. And so for me, it's like, do I really want to see what everybody else sees? You know what I mean? Like, because I don't see, if I'm on stage and I'm talking to somebody.
Well, that's a good point.
If I'm doing something that offends somebody, I can't see their facial expression. You know what I mean? So I don't care what I say. I don't care what people think, because I can't see that characteristic of, if I'm offending somebody, or if somebody's like, especially if there's somebody, paying attention to me, trying to get my attention. I don't know what they're looking at, so I give them no mind, which in a sense has helped me out in the Hollywood industry. Because I haven't really cared about what people. I've been able to be myself and to do what I need to do, and be very firm and start in certain kind of categories of the social media industry and the entertainment portion of it. So that I really don't care what people thought about me, and I don't care what people the way I dress, the way I look, the way I handle myself. Because once you start looking at that and you notice somebody is trying to, and if somebody is looking at you awkward, you're going to try to fix what you're doing. So what I'm saying. So do I really want to see what everybody else sees?
Well, and also if you're dealing with music, you don't really need to listen to music.
Right.
In fact, a lot of people have better perception of sound without sight. That is
faith. I always was a firm believer. Faith comes by hearing, not sight. And so during this whole process, I've had a lot of things heightened. My hearing is impeccable. The sense of smell and taste are really good, and so. But another thing is that they told me that once the surgery is done and over with, I will always be considered blind, because there could be complications down the road,
Right.
And they're only doing one eye at a time, and after they do one eye, it takes a year to heal, and so without the music and without the social media and without me doing what I do in radio, I would be. Just sitting there like a duck, because a lot of people, once they are diagnosed with a certain kind of issue, some people take it bad, some people don't know how to handle it, especially when it comes to your eyes, because this is how everybody sees, this is how everybody, views and different aspects of their nature and their culture. So, it's a very, I would say, not dilapating, but like if you don't know how to handle yourself with something like this, then, it could actually cause a lot of stress in your life. And I was able to overcome that, though, which is a great thing, and it's only because of the support that I've had.
Now, you said they can only do one eye at a time. So would you get a different eye from a different, in other words, two people?
No, what they do is they have eyes from that you could. I mean, if it came to it, you could probably get two eyes from two people. But from what I understand, it's two eyes, and they do one eye just to see how your body. They do the eye that's worse, that's far gone than the other one. So they're going to do the right eye first, and then after that, depending on how my body takes, they're going to do they will do the left eye, like about a year later, if not 6 months. But there's a chance where it's like if it takes too good, then they'll go ahead and do it following 2 weeks. So the healing process of this is they say that it's going to be very, I'm going to be tired. So like I said, it's in the eyes, but the eyes heal very quickly. They're going to give me a steroid that actually, I guess makes sure that the cornea stays in place, because they're using stitches that are I guess they just disappear over time,
they
or whatever.
Dissolve,
so there's no taking it out. But yeah, so it's a very terrifying, interesting procedure, because this disease has been around, but it's fairly new. I would say it's only 6 years old. So it's not that old at all to be an actual disease that is affecting people in the United States.
What's it called again?
Keratoconus.
Okay, yeah, I've never heard of it.
And the cona part, they named it after the cone-shaped utensil that you used on Thanksgiving. The corpia, the keratocona part of it is where, the little cone thing that you have when you put all the fruits and vegetables and stuff like that inside.
Oh, cornucopia.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Wow, that's really interesting. Okay. What color are your eyes now?
My eyes are green, like a hazel green.
Green,
and
okay.
They could be purple, you know what I'm saying? So that when I get it, they could be different colors.
Well, do they match? Do they have to match the colors, or they don't care?
I don't think they care too much of it. But yeah, I'm sure they do. But at this point, I don't think they really care. I think they're just trying to save what's left of what's going on in my eyesight.
Well, I think if you had to pick between having eyes of any color that work versus ones that don't, I don't think I would be too fussy about what color they are. Yeah. Let's move on to. I want to ask you something about your career, because I was reading through your bio and it said you started out in the entertainment industry as a model. Now, was this before your eyes started to go?
I would say my eyes started to go when I was a model. I have an identical twin brother, and we started modeling for K Hall, and we did a lot of different runway shoots, and we were one of the 45 people who were picked for the IMTA, which is the International Model Talent Association in Texas. So within Texas, we were 45 people out of the whole state of Texas.
Wow.
That were picked. And well, when we were doing this, I would say maybe about 3 years after that, it was when the actual disease started taking place. Now everybody has a sort of keratocona, if you will, when they're growing up, and it's fixed by giving prescribed glasses, and then if your prescriptions are up to date or they need to be changed, and they're changed in the proper way, and so now a lot of people have it, and a lot of people fix it without even knowing it, because they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're fixing the glasses, they're getting the new ones, they're getting their contacts, and so a lot of people don't even know they have it when they do it, so they're able to treat the keratocona before they even know they even have it. You know what I mean? In my case, it wasn't like that. I was so busy doing this and doing that I wasn't able to catch the glass in the glasses contact stages. So in between the glasses and my contacts, there was something that I had missed, which I was able to have the keratocona, start to exceed in progression more, and so I wasn't able to catch it.
Okay, so at the time you were working as a model, you were working as a runway model?
Yeah.
So not a photo model, not magazine.
I was doing the high fashion as well. I was doing both commercial print as well as high fashion and the runway. My brother was more of the commercial print side, as where I was the high fashion, stuff like that.
You weren't a Calvin Klein underwear model, were you?
I did a couple of shoots for Calvin Klein, but it was I was only I would say about 17, and I did a shoot wearing Perry Ellis. I did DKNY while my brother did the Abercrombie Fitch Kids and the American Eagle style. He was the more smile with the teeth, happy-go-lucky, which I was more of the serious, no smiling, type of photo shoots.
Oh, okay. How long did you do that for?
I did that for about, I would say 2 years, and then I started to realize that really that's not what I wanted to do. And I figured that out when I was, I was coming off of a Matrix hair product runway show. And after that runway show, I kind of told myself this was not what I really wanted to do. I really wanted to go into music, which, my music is rap and hip-hop.
Okay, so you went from modeling to music and then into marketing?
Modeling to music. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so what happened was, I started to get into music, and I started to sing, and believe it or not, I was in a little boy band, if you will. It was when the boy bands were big, and this boy band was called River Sun, and it was just a little local thing, whatever. And I remember we got our first gig at the local baseball game. It was like the semi. It was in the major league, but it was a semi-major league, and we were supposed to sing the national anthem. Need to say more? We never did it. But, I guess one of the guys that was in this group decided he was more all about himself, and he was kind of a selfish person. So, need to say, we broke up, whatever. And then from there, I just told myself, hey, man, I need where I'm at right now is there's too much, stuff going on that's not going to benefit me. I need to go somewhere else, which then I took a bus out to California. And that's where I proceeded to go looking for any kind of job. I wasn't looking just for the music venue or whatever. And I wanted to do the rap and singing career, but there just wasn't anything in Texas that was actually letting me do that. I was in a breakdancing contest. I was doing dancing. I was doing different kind of hip hop groups within the Texas communities and the underground hip hop society within Texas. But when I got to California, I just saw a paper that said, audition. I didn't think I would get it. I actually bypassed it. I was like, no, I'm not going to do this. And so the next day, I saw it again, and I just went and tried. So I was like, what, I'm just going to go out here and try to see what happens. And I got the audition. And the audition was own your own radio show and radio program. And so I went out there and I got the audition. Out of, I think I want to say 200 people, I was one of the 7 that got it by doing a wine commercial. I made it my own, and they loved it. And after that, I got my first 15-minute segment at a 2 o'clock in the morning, airtime on any kind of station. I didn't know where it was going to be, but it was just, this 15-minute segment is going to be on some radio show somewhere. And I was happy with that, And then after that, it got from it went to 15 minutes, to 30 minutes, to an hour. And then from an hour, it went to prime time, which was in California off of the Sunset Strip in Hobart.
Are you still doing it?
Yes, I am. It was called Raw Feed Radio. Raw Feed Radio did very well. It's a RAWE. That was the only one that was that took the E out of raw. It took the E into raw, and made raw with the E. So, and also I went by the White Trash Heartthrob. You know what I mean? And so, and at this time, Yellow Wolf was coming out with his own album, and he went by the White Trash Heartthrob. So it was kind of like it was pretty cool to, be like to know that, you got this uprising rapper that is going by this, and then, you got a uprising, a radio host that was blind that was going by the same thing. And what helped me out the most was that, I was a blind radio host. You know what I mean? And there's not many of those around that are doing radio, especially with the genre that I was doing. And so, it was with Raw Feed Radio, and I had the Nice and Precise show, which was on Century Cable. It was on the XM channel as well, and then also on broadcasting on 93.3 KCLA FM, and then it went from 89.7 KLAS, and then 5:30 AM KMAX, and then from there, I was on Texas 101 Jams, about to be on Royalty Radio, and I was to this day I'm still doing radio. Raw Feed Radio is actually kind of developed into a Raw Feed Entertainment, which takes the social media aspect in a business, as well as offers a chance for somebody to broadcast their own radio show underneath the Raw Feed umbrella, to get exposure and to get visibility. Whereas, if you were in Kansas or something and you couldn't get it, you can come over to the side where I'm at and I can help you out, get your visibility, your online promotions, your SEO, your rankings and stuff like that within this platform, so that you're able to be seen worldwide on a global basis.
Okay, so that's what you're doing now, right? You're doing marketing. You've got a marketing company, and
yes.
Tell us just quickly about that. What would you offer to somebody?
What I would offer somebody, it's really, I would look at their approach first, and I always ask a client or somebody who's trying to get in this business what their goals are. Everybody wants to get rich quick, and it's not going to happen, especially in this business. I would offer them a way to be able to show their image. I would build their social media platforms and offer them a way for them to actually know how to utilize their platforms, what kind of platforms they're using, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud, or whatever have you. Let them know what they actually have, how it works. Because at the end of the day, everything is a big game. Everything is a way. How are you going to put yourself in this game so that you can be seen and be heard? And so what I would do is I would help them on the back end, getting them seen, getting them heard, raising their visibility up, and having them know how to use their own profile and use their own tool. Because if you don't know how to drive your own car and you have a car, then that's a problem. You know what I'm saying? So if you have a YouTube or a Twitter and you're just using it just to, just say hi these tools are tools that they will benefit us if we use them correctly and if we know how to use them. And so if I'm doing a Twitter promotion and you're on the front end and I'm on the back end, I want you to know how you need to use your profile, and so that you can use it and I can do what I need to do, and we both can actually be a team, because together everyone achieves more. So I also would offer the press releases. I do that as well. Syndication. Also, like I said, I have the A&R license, and so information on just anything that has to do with music. Really, I've been doing social media for a very long time, and I can hang with the best of them. I might not be, the white collar, the tie and suit kind of social media representative. I'm more from, like I said, I have a history and I'm from the streets of Texas, so I'm not afraid to go out into the streets and talk to these artists that are from places like Crenshaw or places that that people don't want to go to. I know how to talk the talk. I understand the social media language, and I can speak the language as well. So once you can speak it and understand it and know what you're talking about on many different levels, then you're able to, do a lot within the social media game, because it's a social media game, man. It's all it is. For me, it's like you can't grab the internet and look at it. So if you can't grab the internet and look at it and take it and physically touch it, yet this whole entity represents something that is so real to almost everybody in the world, then how do we capitalize on something to this nature, And so once you're able to do that and build a image and build something within this concept and monetize it, then you're able to do a lot of wonderful things for yourself, not just for yourself, but for other people as well.
So what would you charge somebody if they came to you and said, hey, I want to get you involved in my social media marketing, or do you customize packages for them depending on what they need?
I said, like, a lot of people will say, social media is very expensive nowadays. Some people say social media is dead. Some people say that SEO is dead, which of course it's not. Everybody knows that social media is one of the key to a lot of these different aspects of media marketing or business-wise, period. To get your product seen here, you have to put it here, and able to do that, you have to have the social media. A lot of people don't have time to do that, so they'll go to social media managers, or they'll get somebody to help them. Me personally, I do something totally different. I know what it's like now. I know that people are trying to, especially when it comes to brick and mortar, and when it comes to an online a business or product or MLM or social media concept that somebody's trying to put out there, music product, whatnot. The money time, it's tight. A lot of people don't have the money to be able to help themselves out when it comes to this. And that's why they try to do it themselves. They end up, stressing themselves out and then giving up on the whole project alone. But what I do is I just tell them, man, I'm like, look, you invest in yourself then I'm going to invest in you. You know, I have no problem being able to invest $25,000 to $15,000, dollars worth of social media experience and time within a project. You know, as long as you invest in yourself, and investing in yourself could be $100. You know, it could be $50. You know what I'm saying? Everybody gets something from somewhere, you know, and there's always going to be a wholesale and a retail price of wherever you go. It just so happens that when it comes to the wholesale price of what I do, it's what it is. You know, I'm getting it at a certain thing, and people are and I'm going to share the wealth with them. There's enough for everybody to eat. My whole goal is that once I'm done with you, you know, you're not going to need me anymore. You know, you're going to be able to know what you're doing, know how to speak some of the lingo so that you're able to talk and with the people that you need to talk to, whatever it be, sponsorship, stuff like that, so you can able to get what you need to get from doing what you need to do from the actual studies and from the actual lessons that we both, you know, have learned together. And so, you know, it's not about money with me. It's not about benefiting off of you. It's about your success. You know what I mean? So I've done a lot of, free stuff for artists, you know, especially when it comes to the celebrities out in Hollywood and stuff like that. A lot of people want you to put your money where your mouth is. You know, you say you could do this, well, let me see it. And so once you do it and you show them, then, you know, you're in the game, you know, and it just so happens I'm able to do that. A lot of people can't. You know, you have those social media aspects of representatives in these big companies that nobody meets. Within UMG, within Atlantic, within you know, HBO or whatever, Showtime, you know, you have these people who are able to take these marketing concepts and throw them out there so everybody can see, and then they get millions of followers and millions of views and millions of ROI investment opportunities from these actual campaigns that they promote. And I'm one of these guys.
What is your website? We're kind of running out of time. We got to wrap this up.
My right now, my website is being revamped. It's actually rawfeed.vip. I did VIP because I was the entertainment domain, which it is being redone. But that's my website. My Twitter is np_Mike. Got 136,000 followers. But the website that I have is it shows the social media, what's new in the social media game in 2019. Gives you, talks about the AI, the bots that's going on, artificial intelligence bots, and how people are using the voice searches within their social media campaigns to higher their Google rankings, as well as it has the music side of things where, you know, it has the what's going on in music, what to do, what kind of social media platform that the music industry has to offer for musicians, whether it be, hip hop or country. And then I take that as well as and then I put my radio side of things. And so not only can you get a social media experience for representation and or just products or whatever you're trying to get with the social media side, you're able to go to the music side and get the same thing. And then also you're able to get radio as well. So you have three different things you can hit with one stone. I have downloads you can download stuff on, like, you know, free tools, marketing lessons and stuff like that you're able to take home and just be able to use at your own will. And the cool thing about it is that they're for a lifetime. You know, I don't charge anything for that. I don't charge for, wanting you to be successful. And, you know, I guess there's a saying that it says, what is it? Don't, everything is worth something, or, you know, the game is to be sold, not told. But for me, it's like, you know, if there's enough for it to go around, then why not share and, you know, be a team and prosper together? Because, like I said, together everyone achieves more, and especially in the music industry, because it's so selfish. Whether, you know, if me and you were going out and I was able to help you, and I was to be able to help you the whole time, and then at the very last second, I'm like, well, I can help you, but it's going to cost you this. Instead of me just going ahead and helping you, knowing that I could help you, knowing that if I helped you, you could help yourself, which would help us. It's not like that in the entertainment industry, but if it was, there'd be a lot more success rates and a lot more things going on in the Hollywood industry that would be more positive.
Well, that's a whole nother show. I mean, I could go on for a long time about the music industry.
Yes, sir.
Well, Mike, thanks so much for coming on. We do have to wrap this up. Best of luck with everything, and best of luck with the eye surgery. I hope that works out for you.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much, man. And you guys just Google Mike Precise and Raw Feed Radio, and then you guys you want to come aboard and talk to me or whatever. Hit me up, man. I got you.
You're listening to Mr. Smooth and Savvy right here on the Douglas Coleman Show. We'll be right back after these commercial messages.
Since the dawn of man, storytelling has held the power to rewrite history and shape our future. That power has too often been used to manipulate us and prey on our sons and daughters with impunity. Teenagers, lured by the siren's call of Hollywood dreams, are pitted against each other and told, if you won't do it, there's 1,000 more arriving tomorrow who will. The time has come to end this race to the bottom. Secrecy and silence no longer need to be the price for success. Technology, laws, and culture have culminated in a moment of opportunity where disruption is not just possible, but inevitable. Gratwick was established to be a turnkey studio capable of supporting local artists without luring them away. To remain accountable at all times, it will be owned and operated by the audience and the artists. Own a piece of a new, transparent Hollywood where you hold influence over what gets funded, who gets cast, and what charities we support. Visit Gratwick Productions on StartEngine.com today and take ownership over who has the power to entertain you.
Hi there, this is Stuart Epps, record producer. This is my story about Elton John, working with him in those early years, going back to 1967 at Dick James, all the amazing tours, those first recordings, going through to Rocket Records, and it's an amazing story about his incredible rise to stardom and my part in that. So look forward to taking you on that journey. So here we go. Yeah, and to order this great audio CD, please just email me at stuartepps@talk21.com. That's Stuart, S-T-U-A-R-T, Epps, E-P-P-S, at talk, T-A-L-K, 21 in figures.com. Stuart Epps at talk21.com. Email me and I'll give you all the details for buying this brilliant audio disc. Thank you, bye.
DJC Music and DJC Productions are pleased to announce a brand new website. We have started a listing website for radio show hosts as well as potential show guests. This is a meeting site where hosts and guests can come together. Show hosts can list their show and types of guests they're interested in booking. Potential guests can list their talents, bio, accomplishments, or anything they feel makes them an interesting radio show guest. There are no recurrent payments, only a one-time $5 listing fee. Your listing will stay up until you decide to cancel. Previous guests of The Douglas Coleman Show are welcome to submit their guest listing free of charge. Go to radiohostsandguests.com. That's radiohostsandguests.com.
Tired of living in a culture of lies, fake news, and alternative facts? The Pro-Truth Pledge reverses the tide of lies by calling on politicians, and everyone else, to commit to truth-oriented behaviors. The pledge asks signees to commit to 12 behaviors that research in behavioral science shows lead to truthfulness, such as clarifying one's opinions and the facts, citing one's sources, and celebrating people who update their beliefs toward the truth. Private citizens who sign the pledge get the benefit of contributing to a more truth-oriented society. Public figures get more substantive rewards for signing the pledge in the form of positive media and public recognition. The pledge crowdsources the truth by asking volunteers to evaluate the statements of public figures who sign the pledge. Take the pledge, demand that your elected representatives do so, and encourage your friends to take it at protruthpledge.org.
Are you an independent musician? How would you like to have your songs played on hundreds of radio stations just like the one you're listening to right now? Join MusicSubmit.com and we'll promote your music to radio stations and blogs in your genre. It's free to set up your account, and we guarantee your music will be considered for airplay by radio stations worldwide. Why not sign up today? It's free. MusicSubmit.com. Radio promotion for indie musicians.
Okay, please welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show, Tim Starnes. Hey, Tim, how are you?
Pretty well. How about yourself?
Oh, doing very well, thank you. Let's see. You are the founder and creator for Ethereal. Now, that's a word I don't use very often. Crack's Ghost Tours, which grew to be the largest ghost tour agency in the United States and quite probably the world, specializing in ghost tours in North and South Carolina small towns. All right, first question I got to ask is, What spawned your interest in ghosts?
Well, that's an interesting question, but I'll go ahead and get the funniest thing right out of the gate. I personally actually don't like horror films. I don't like scary books. I'm not drawn to anything scary, which always kind of raises people's eyebrows when they go, the ghost tour guy is like kind of freaked out by that kind of stuff. Yes, it's true. But quite frankly, I've had a number of paranormal experiences in my own life. So that leads me to believe I've got the ability to sense this sort of thing by some combination. In getting the company put together and all these ghost tours, just kind of incidentally, I've ended up doing a lot of research in the paranormal, as you would have to. Really narrowing down all this research, I believe two things. The first, that your ability to sense the spiritual world, and I'm not talking about UFOs and aliens and that sort of stuff. I'm talking about the spiritual world itself and seeing what you would call a ghost. I believe that your ability to do that is genetic. So think back, mom, grandma, grandpa, uncle, whoever. If somebody in your family's ever said like, oh, I saw a ghost, that might be where you've got that sort of connection from. And the second thing is that I believe it could be a sliding scale of 1 to 10. So you could be a 1 and you see a ghost once in your life and that's it. Or you could be a full-blown number 10 and that's when you're like a spiritual psychic medium and you see this stuff all around you all day, every day. Now, I'm no number 10 on the scale. I'm probably a 1 or a 2 because I've only had a couple experiences here and there. But that's sort of what piqued my interest. And then I noticed there's a big kind of to-do about horror movies and haunted houses and all that kind of stuff right now. So I was going, what if there was a ghost tour that didn't do the tacky ghost hunting equipment or these I said, she said ghost stories? What if it was really informational and sort of branched out beyond the typical ghost story? What if they talked about witch trials and UFOs and Bigfoot sightings, stuff like that? So I originally launched the company out in Waxhaw, North Carolina, which is my hometown. It was a blowout success from the very beginning, and it just started growing from there and kind of became what it is today.
Okay, I want to touch back on something you said. Not too long ago, I had John Edward on the show. I don't know if you know who he is. He was on a show called Crossing Over, and he was...
I'm not familiar with his work.
Okay, he's a psychic medium. I don't know how old you are, but he was on in the 80s and 90s, so he's probably closer to my age than maybe. I'm guessing you're a little younger than me. But anyways, he had a show...
94.
You were born in 94?
Yes.
Oh, well, you're a lot younger than me. Okay. That's all right. It's no, I don't care how old my guests or how young my guests are. It's all about personalities. He was on a show called Crossing Over, and basically he was able to communicate with people that had passed on, and he did this in front of a live audience and gave them tidbits of information that was coming through, all this kind of stuff. I had him on the show, and he made the same sort of reference that you did about how he thinks it's genetic, and he thinks he got it from his mother's side of the family because they were very sort of in tune to the spiritual world. His father was a total non-believer and tried to discourage him from pursuing this as a career. He's probably the most famous one in the United States, I would say. If you get a chance, Google him, because he'll come up on 1,000 different things. When I talked to him, I told him that I was an optimistic I don't know. And I have to believe that it's a sense that's similar to smell and to taste. And he gave another example, which I'll use real quick, and then I'll let you talk. He said that, have you ever met somebody who he called it stinky energy, smelly energy, where you just met somebody and they didn't say anything, they didn't stink or whatever, but you just kind of went, ew. There was just something about that person that just you didn't like. Something told you in there that this is not a good person, and you don't know what it is, and you're usually right. He said that sort of energy everybody seems to have the ability to perceive. So it's not any different with people that have passed on. It's just a different kind of an energy that some people can perceive, some people can't. It's like dogs have an acute sense of smell that we don't have. Dogs can smell things. Can you smell a bomb in a suitcase? I can't. Can you smell a package of heroin in a suitcase at an airport? I certainly can't. But the dogs can. No problem. So I think why not? Okay? So that's my take on this, so you know where I'm at with it. So my next question then is going to be, how do you determine a ghost site? Like what would qualify as a place that you would take people on a tour and say, oh, this is a possible ghost site?
So I use a very simple criteria and one that works. My single criteria is that it can't have been seen or experienced by one person only. There's the entire reason for this is because you can always say if it only happens to one person, Tim, that's crazy. You and or the person who experienced this needs medicine. So my sort of big qualifier is that multiple people, like I said, have to have experienced this certain thing. It could be spaced out over time, but it has to be a very firmly matching description amongst multiple people with no similar variables. So, for example, out in Waxhaw, North Carolina, one of the last, if not the very last, witch trials in the United States could have occurred in that area. Now, there's a long-winded story about really all that happened, but the sort of thing I need to clarify to have this be true is that if you're looking at the broad definition of what a witch trial is, that's the use of paranormal means or intervention to determine guilt or innocence. So really that widens out what a witch trial truly is. So in that case, multiple people were there who witnessed this witch trial. Basically, they marched this woman out to the cemetery, dig out her husband's grave, pull him out. It's the 1750s. He's going to be pretty crusty. When they do, they pluck out a skull. She lays her hand on it. When she pulls her hand away, it's supposed to come away bloody. If she did it, she knows who did it, that sort of thing. It will be her husband reaching forth from the grave to say, hey, something's up. If she pulls it away clean, she gets away scot-free. There's very well-documented evidence that multiple people were there when this happened, so therefore it makes it into the Waxhaw Ghost Tour. There's a very popular restaurant up in Concord, North Carolina, along the tour route, where nearly all of the wait staff have experienced this exact same phenomena, and the owner of the restaurant was also attacked by something in eyesight of other people. So that, like I said, is my single only determining qualifier, is has more than one person seen this happen or seen it occur, whatever it may be.
Okay, so tell us the story about, you said you had some kind of paranormal experience. So did you see a ghost somewhere or at some time in your life? So
the sort of paranormal ability I would say that I have, while it's very minimum, was unlocked when I was around 5 or 6. I don't remember the exact age. I don't remember exactly when it happened, but I do have a very vivid memory of it happening. During the summers when I was off from school, my grandparents would look after me during the week because, of course, my parents are at work. So my grandmother's front living room wall is basically what I call a wall of windows. It's a 3x3 panel that took up most of the wall. You could see just about the entire yard. There's a column coming out of the wall and then a glass storm door. So there's a bit you can't see, but 90% of the yard you can see just from that wall of windows. So I'm laying there, and it literally is a dark and stormy summer's day when this happened. Can't help it, is what it is. But I remember my interior intuition saying, Tim, look up. So I do. And on the very leftmost side of my grandmother's front lawn is a glowing figure of white light. It looks exactly like a human shadow, but it's made of white light. There's no clothes. It doesn't have a face. Just imagine glowing white light. And it begins to nonchalantly walk out across my grandmother's lawn. So I look up, and I'm watching it walk just out across the lawn. And as it moves to the right side, where I have to roll on the floor to finish watching it go out across the right side, it's gone. Now, at that age, I realized that only crazy people see this sort of thing. Don't say a word about it. I come from a family of what I would call non-believers, so don't say a word about it. Years later, this was probably 2012, when my grandmother passed away, we were cleaning up the house to turn it into a rental property. And I told the story to my aunt, just like I told you right now. And she stopped. She goes, your grandmother saw the exact same thing you did. She was just in the open doorway to the kitchen back behind you. I guess you didn't notice her. And, of course, we couldn't say anything to you. You were too young. It would scare you. And the rest of us just kind of forgotten about it. Now, the thing that sort of ingrains this idea that it's genetic, all that sort of thing in me, is that my grandmother's the only person who is, to my recollection, ever actively said to me, Tim, I saw a ghost when I was younger, yada, yada. She's the only definite connection I can make, and we both saw that same entity that morning walking out across the front lawn. So that was pretty much the unlocking moment for me. I've had multiple experiences over the past 8 years in my parents' house, and it's quite frankly of my opinion that there is, when I say grave, you think headstone, that sort of thing. I'm saying unmarked has been there a very long time. I believe there's someone underneath the house, and there's been a couple sort of aggravating scenarios where the spirit has acted up. In fact, my mom, who's a vehement non-believer, started making jokes that she was going to buy a Ouija board and use it. Well, she obviously made the spirit angry, and one afternoon it threw a set of glasses at her straight from inside the cabinet, sort of shot them out at her. And she stopped making those jokes after that occurred.
So this is under your parents' house, you said, that you think there's somebody buried under there?
That's what I personally believe, yes.
Is there anything to back that up? Like, did the people own the house before your parents, or did your parents live in it from the time it was new?
So to my knowledge, historically, I don't know of anything that says there should be somebody underneath there. That's what I'm saying. It's probably a body from a long, long time ago where there wouldn't be a record of it. But the interesting thing is that the house that all this has occurred in was built in 2007 to 2008. It took about a year for it to be completed. We lived next door in my grandparents' house while it was being built. So, standing in the living room, we could see all this construction going on. The interesting thing is that my grandmother, during the year the house was being built, would complain she would have this nightmare of, quote, the devil watching her sleep. What she would describe as sleep paralysis. Wake up, not be able to move. All she could do was move her eyes around to look at the ceiling. All of a sudden, out of her peripheral vision, a shadow would step to the edge of the bed, lean over her, stay for however long. During this period, of course, you can't tell time. Eventually, it would lean back up, step backwards, and she'd be able to sit up again. Now, that's weird, whatever. My parents say, hey, that was her, she's on medicine, that sort of thing. If any kids are listening, if your parents tell you that, they're not telling you the truth. Don't listen to it. From that time on, 3-4 times maybe this happens. Well, in my parents' house, I've had the exact same experience. A sleep paralysis episode, the shadow steps out of my peripheral vision, looks down at me, same sort of story. And it was only probably about a year ago that I connected the dots together. That when the house was being built, a significant amount of land was pushed around. Tractors, bulldozers, that sort of thing. So the land was disturbed. So if there's somebody beneath the house, there's a significant movement of dirt and land right there. So it'd be enough to make them angry.
Tell me a little bit about the tour. What does it entail? If somebody wants to go on one of your tours, what happens?
Yeah, so it's an hour long. It's pretty much truncated. Most ghost tours will be about 2 hours. That's too much. So our tours are an hour long, but they're very packed full of information. There's about 10 to 12 stories on each tour, and they're going to be a little bit of anything and everything. So we don't go more than a 15-mile radius for story material. And by story, I should really say case, because all of it well-documented paranormal events. So having said that, we'll stop along if there's a particularly haunted spot that we can stop at. But the rest of it's going to be, hey, we're going to tell you about this here. If you want to go see it, here's how to go see it. And like I was saying, we start at spot A. We go typically a block up and down Main Street and return to the same spot we started from, pointing stuff out along the way. So it's about a 20% of a history tour where we'll say, hey, we're passing the original post office. This used to be the train station back in the day. And we'll give a ghost story if we have a good, credible source for it. But it's very quick, very to the point. We don't use any ghost hunting equipment, nothing like that. It is basically what I describe as the anti-ghost tour ghost tour. So if you're interested in the stories and history and that sort of thing, it's a great tour for you. If you want to do something where maybe it's going to be a bit more funsy and you might capture a ghost on the tape recorder, you might want to go with the other guy. But the big thing with me from the very beginning has been giving people credible information from the start to the end. I would much rather somebody walk away going, hey, maybe this sort of stuff is real. So we don't preach that it is. We simply give the information. Here's making our case. You go home and decide if you believe in it or not.
So people aren't coming on the tour expecting to see ghosts then?
Absolutely not. I would say, owning this company for going on 3 years now, I've only ever had one credible ghost photo ever sent to me. One out of 3 years, 50 tours operating every weekend. That's a whole lot of pictures being sent to me to only come out with one. But that's the math.
Let's talk about your book, because we're kind of running out of time real quick. You've got a book is it out now?
It's coming out next October. So I'm going on this year-long publicity tour, sort of shouting from the rooftops, telling about this book.
Okay. Well, tell us the title and tell us briefly what it's about.
Definitely. So the title is going to raise some eyebrows. It is called Agony, Suffering Yesterday, Entertaining Today. It is a weird marriage of many different book types. So it's a cookbook. It's got recipes in there. The recipes begin in 1400, and each chapter is a different century, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 2000. It ends in the 2000s. So each chapter filled with recipes from the time period, but these recipes are only from major historical disasters. So in the 1900s chapter, for example, we have the Titanic, the meal that was served the last night before it sank.
Oh.
We have the menu from the Hindenburg, the day that it imploded. And we also have a menu from the Orient Express. Now, of course, there's no real murder on the Orient Express, but we're using it as sort of a fun, luxurious food chapter. And then, for example, going further back, there's food from a plague house in Italy during the 1400s. It's all these different terrible things happening in the food you would have eaten at that time and place. So married with that is, on each page is a recipe, of course. There's a text box, and in that text box could be anything from weird medical history from throughout time, weird urban legend sort of material, or a weird history fact. And then on top of that there's a fiction piece of it. So with each chapter, you're traveling with these Victorian Ray Bradbury-esque time travelers who are out on a mission sent by the University of Bologna to go out and document all these recipes. So in the beginning of the book, they're great. They've just started their journey. They're fun. As the book progresses, though, as they experience all this sort of extravagant food and these disasters, they become more progressively sick and injured. So by the time they reach the 2000s, the book ends in a hospital bar where they've pretty much just given up the book. The end of the book, you get no extra information. It's just alcoholic drink recipes. It is what it is. It's over. So it's sort of an interesting, blitzed up mixture of all different types of nonfiction and some creative fiction in there, kind of presenting itself as this 250-page tome of historical nonfiction.
It sounds interesting, but it doesn't sound like a book that someone maybe would read. Is there a story to this? Or is it just like a bunch of clips of random bits of information?
So it's definitely what I would say is a coffee table book. It's not something you're going to pick up and traditionally read. You're going to essentially, in mine and the publisher's visioning, is pick it up, flip through it, pick out some interesting stuff and read it, put it back down. Maybe a month later you come back, you pick it up, you read something else. Part of the idea is, now that you've got all these recipes, and this is something I would do myself, is cook all this food, throw a dinner party. Everybody says how great it is. At the very end, you pull the book out and you say, hey, you just ate the meal from the last night the Titanic was afloat. Congratulations. Or if you've got, a particularly dark sense of humor, call people in and serve them a bowl of cabbage pottage, which is basically just boiled cabbage with no spices in it, and go, hey, this is what you would have eaten at a plague house in the 1400s, right before they storm out angry that they didn't get a real dinner. But like I said, it's essentially a hodgepodge. It's not something you're going to pick up and read and write a philosophical discourse on, even though I think there's some stuff to be said about why the certain material was picked, but pretty much a coffee table book.
Okay. Give us your website where people can come and check you out.
Sure, it's www.etherealcrack.com. There you can find out about ghost tours, you can find out about the book, and all the other sort of creative enterprises that I'm currently working on.
Okay, super. Tim, we got to wrap this up. Thank you so much for coming on. This was real interesting. Best of luck with your book and your ghost tours. I hope it does very well.
Oh, well, thank you very much, and I really appreciated being invited on.